there's been a lot of talk this week in the last couple of weeks, I guess, about this whole Kobe versus T Mac thing. Of course, T Mac went. He was on a podcast. I think was he on ESPN? I think, and he said that if he had gotten to play with Shaq, he would be an NBA champion, right? Now, T Mac is someone who, and then of course, you had Arenas up there with his guys, and they were saying that basically Kobe versus T Mac was a real argument back in the day when they were young, and you had Nick Young, Nick Young is like a year or two older than me, and he was saying, and Nick Young basically took issue with that and got kind of heated about it, but mainly got heated because I guess the other guys are, Nick is a laid back guy, and the other guys were kind of like trying to force their opinion on him. But regardless, the fact of the matter is that absolutely, I was there. I remember. I was all about ball between 2000 and 2002, 2003. That was like the peak of my basketball fandom. And I can say without a shadow of a doubt, Kobe versus T Mac was absolutely a debate between 2001 and 2003. Uh, and I would say with each year, it uh, it took a while because Kobe came in to more coming to the Lakers. It kind of, even though McGrady was drafted higher than Kobe was drafted. It was it was the year after McGrady. McGrady was drafted in '97. Kobe was drafted in '96. McGrady, I don't remember exactly what pick McGrady was, but Kobe was picked 13th. McGrady was picked higher than that, and um, but Kobe came in with more fanfare because he came in with the Lakers, and almost from the start, you know, the legend begins to grow. And of course, as a rookie, he shoots 4 air balls, and then '98 he started in the All Star game. 2000 he wins the first championship. Whereas McGrady, through his first 2 years, through his third season, he was still, was he coming off the bench, or I'm sure, I don't remember if he was coming off the bench, but he was I mean, Vince Carter was the man in Toronto, right? And McGrady was just, like his talent, like a talented guy coming up. Averaged like 15 points a game that third year. Then he goes to Orlando as a free agent with Grant Hill. Everybody thinking that they're gonna be like the next Jordan and Pippen. But Grant Hill was suspected to be the Jordan, and McGrady was thought of as the Pippen. And of course, then Grant Hill gets hurt. He was already, he broken his foot in Detroit. He gets to Orlando. He's not, the injuries just they don't stop for years, right? Basically, they're what they wanted to be. It never materialized because Hill was always hurt. So that first year, McGrady, that breakout year, averages 26.8 points a game. People realize, oh, this guy is really something. And so, 2001, 2002, I remember Charles Barkley was probably the only person, I can remember Barkley saying that he would, it was, like 2001, 2002, and he would actually put McGrady ahead of Kobe. And I think it was something either because of that McGrady, you could post McGrady up, or McGrady could post you up. It was some type of advantage that he gave to McGrady over Kobe back then. Um, Now by 2003, that's when really everybody had kind of caught on, and it was like, oh, this McGrady guy is like, right. And I always remember when I was watching the sports reporters. Back then I was a huge Kobe stan, right? I was a kid. I was like, shoot, back then I was like, 2000 to 2003, I was 12 to 15 years old, right? So I was peak basketball stan. This is before I was on the internet, right? So I mean, it was natural just arguing, with whoever I could talk to, right, about it. And but Dan Le Batard is on the sports reporters, and he looks into the camera, This is at the start of the 2002-2003 season. All right, so Shaq had missed the first 12 games of the season. This is after we had just three-peated, and Shaq had missed the first 12 games of the 2003 season, right? And Shaq Shaq gets up. I'm sorry, he missed the first 12 games of the season, and I think it was a toe surgery. I think it was, and he missed the first 12 games. And Kobe had come in. He knew Shaq was going to miss the start of the season. He had bulked up. If you go back and look at those games at the start of that season, Kobe looked like a bodybuilder, right? And so he bulks up and he comes up the season. There's no Shaq, and he's kind of struggling, shooting somewhere, like 40%, give or take, around there from the field. Right? He wasn't shooting well. Now, of course, when you got that big fella in the middle, it makes a huge difference, right? And I was talking to Jason Wolf about it, my friend Jason Wolf about it once, about Penny. And how, Penny was like a 50% field goal shooter with Shaq. And then Shaq leaves, and the next season he's like 44%. And Jason goes, well, it takes some time to adjust to not having the big fella in the middle, and that's true. And I think that, Kobe came out, he was too strong physically, and that hurt. And also not having that big fella, you had to make that adjustment. But he was struggling with his shot. And I always remember Le Batard being on the sports reporters and looking into the camera and going, he goes, Tracy McGrady is better than Kobe Bryant, right? And I hated Dan for years for saying that. I remember the one Lakers game I ever went to, which might sound odd as much as I've loved the Lakers over the years. I've only been to one Lakers game, and it was that same season, 2002-2003. I think it was February. It was in the middle of Kobe's 9-game, 40-point streak. They played the Knicks. Shaq did not play because he might have been the toe or whatever it was. He missed 15 games that season, 12 at the start of the game, then a few more the rest of the season. And that was one of them. They played the Knicks. Kobe had 40 exactly. Allen Houston had 53, a career high. If you look at the game on YouTube, it's on there, the highlights. It seemed like Houston didn't hit the net all night. And I remember we were leaving the game, we were walking to the truck with me and my dad. And I was telling my dad about what Le Batard said. And my dad goes, you really shouldn't worry about that type of stuff so much, Anthony. and that's how I was back then, So I remember vividly that absolutely McGrady versus Kobe, it was an argument. And it was an argument that grew with each passing year to the point that, in 2003, it was something that was more widely discussed, right? And it was valid at that time. McGrady was a special player in Orlando. He was unforgettable, just like young Penny was unforgettable in Orlando. You never forget it how good he was. Young McGrady was the same way. 6'8", but probably taller, probably 6'10". Handles, shot, played a floor game, rebounds and assists, defended when he wanted to, everything that Kobe could do, McGrady could do it. Now, would he do it? I saw an analogy. Who made it? I forget who said it. But they were saying that basically McGrady was a building that went up to the 100th floor and he only got to the 70th floor. And Kobe was a building that went up to the 90th floor, but he reached all 90 floors. I thought that was just a brilliant analogy. McGrady was a little bit bigger, and probably, I always say Kobe, A-plus athletes, that's like Jordan, Braun, Vince Carter. Then like an A would be like McGrady, A- would be like Kobe. So McGrady, a little bit more athletic, he's bigger, a little bit, 6'8" instead of 6'6", and could do everything that Kobe could do, but didn't have the same will. I don't think he had the same work ethic, and I think that was the difference. Now the question is, as to McGrady's claim that if he had played with Shaq, I think for sure in 2001 they could have done it. Did they go 15-1? I don't know, but that team was so good, and Shaq was so great, and they had already won one the year before. I think if you slide McGrady in there on that exact team, that's probably a team that can still, I mean, they probably win it all. And if they win three straight, I don't know about that because those other 2 years were difficult, and McGrady's weakness is that he wasn't as like mentally tough as Kobe was. So you think about 2002, and some of these years where McGrady and Kobe would just will some of these games, like against the Spurs in 2002. Is McGrady doing that? I don't know. In the playoffs, he never did it at any other time, right? Um, and also, in 2000, did they win in 2000? It's always hardest to win the first one, as OKC just showed. So did the Lakers win in 2000 with McGrady instead of Kobe? And if they don't win now, maybe they're not good. Maybe they don't win the one. Maybe it doesn't even get started, right? But I think in a vacuum, if you look at that 1 year, 2001, that would be the year that I go, oh, okay, slide McGrady in there in Kobe's place, and they're probably still winning the championship, right? Because McGrady was that great, and of course, and Shaq was that great. Let's face it, So if you put I mean, there's nothing against Kobe, but if you put McGrady, you might have put Vince Carter in there, and they still win it. That team was so great. If you put somebody who's 95 or 98% of Kobe in there, that was Vince Carter's best year too, 2001, right? Well, 2000 I think was the season everybody remembers, but 2001 that's when they almost made the conference finals. So when you're talking about players like that, man, the margins are so small, right? And it doesn't take anything away from Kobe. If you put Kobe with Tim Duncan during that same period, they won a title or two, right? Duncan was winning. Duncan won in 2003 with young Ginobili and Parker. So you think that Kobe and Duncan wouldn't have won a championship or two, right? So it's not an insult to Kobe. It's more of a it's a tribute to McGrady, right? So he was that good. He really was that guy. Didn't end up having the same career because I think he just didn't have the type of mental toughness that Kobe had. And I think McGrady always really deep down thought of himself as more of a. I think I remember reading back then that he really thought of himself as more of a Scottie Pippen, a do everything type of player more so than what he had to be in Orlando. And of course, the retort everybody was making was that, well, if you could have won with Shaq, how come you couldn't win with Yao Ming, right? So McGrady never made out the first round in his prime. He only made out the first round when he was basically like the 15th man, basically on the Spurs later in his career.